actually work. Without that, it would have been bad. All right, everyone. So just as you know, we are in our Lenten sermon series. And if you've been looking at your news and events, you will know that the name of our sermon series for $500, John Lockwood, is... Yes, This Way Up. This Way Up. We didn't have a sermon series name, and then Patsy was like, Reverend Patsy was just like, This Way Up? Duh. And it was perfect. So she dropped off this box at my office like, hey, Christian, why don't you, if you want to use this, and it's perfect because it just reminds us exactly why we're doing what we do during Lent and why the Sermon on the Mount is our guide. Because this is your soul. This is your brain for all those who were born in the 70s. And remember that commercial, right? So this is your soul, and you want your soul to be facing up. So everything that we do is leading us up towards the heavenly life and to be meeting Jesus, and so we can create heaven here on earth. But often in our life, we can get distracted, and you know what happens when the delivery person delivers your stuff, and it's maybe like this, or it's like this. What happens inside, John? It all falls down, it gets broken, it's not as useful, right? FedEx person, why'd you do that? Right? In our life, but we're the FedEx person. We got to be responsible for how we take care of our soul and how we take care of our faith. And so we want to be, Lent is a time to be looking at how we handle this soul of ours. And is it always pointing this way up? So that's what we do. Last week, we talked about one big way that gets in the way of us maybe starting to lose balance with it is, if you remember from last week, Jesus was saying, do not, it was only 7 days ago, worry. Worry gets right in the way, will rob you of your faith. Worry will say, don't worry about God. You try to figure out the problem, John. You try to figure it out. And you will go in your mind, and the drunken monkey will dance around. And don't worry about God. He can take care of it. But no, you take care of it. This way down. Right? So this week, Jesus brings up another one. Jesus talks to us about another thing that just gets right in the way, that can flip your soul upside down. And we heard an interesting translation today from the Message, which we read in here. Now, you would know traditionally that Jesus is saying, well, it's one thing that comes up a lot. It actually may have come up on the way over here when you drove here to church. It might be happening right now in your head as you listen to my sermon. Judgment. You might be sitting there judging away and be like, oh gosh, I thought Reverend Patsy was preaching. This guy's terrible. And Bryce is like, man, I got out of bed for this thing. Come on, Christian, can you really just this goes on forever? Right? I'm just kidding. So, but judgment will just seep in there and grab a hold of us. And Jesus is like, do not judge. Stop it. You want that thing to face up, your soul to face up, you got to stop it. But this is not easy. Jesus, it's not easy. Why? It's just so common. It seeps into everything we do. Little tiny judgments, like little sawdust, as Jesus talks about, or big logs that we hold on to. If you remember the traditional translation, he says, don't, look at the sawdust in your neighbor's eye, but first you got to focus on the log in your own. So let's rewind here. Jesus is not saying don't judge. He does. There's an if in here. He says, do not judge, or if there's an until you do what? Until you got to look at the log in your own eye. So Jesus knows how we work as human beings because his Father made us. He understands if we just follow him, he's going to say, listen, you just follow my way. I'm going to show you the best way to live your life and to be a child of God. And he knows. And modern psychology would agree with this because, I checked, I always try to double check my sermon with like Psychology Today and these different psychology blogs and stuff, that 90% of the time, judgment is really about something that's going on inside of you. That temptation to judge, it's like the old adage, you say, don't point. right? Because there's three fingers pointing right back at you, right? Don't judge because usually there's three, because it's usually an expression, a manifestation of your own issues you got going on. And so that's where Jesus is saying, hold up, before you have the right to hold someone else accountable, which Paul calls us to do, hold each other accountable. Before you do that, you first have got to take care of your own drama. That right away is going to wipe away 90% of the times we feel we want to judge. Because it's just an expression of insecurities that we have or issues that we have inside of our own hearts. So of those of you who have worked with me closely in ministry, or all of you here at CFW will know that I am not the poster child for time management. All right? When I came to this church, this was the 9 a.m. service. About after a month, we started calling it the 9-ish service. Okay? For those of you who've done ministry with me, know that we're going to start at 3. Oh, it's Father Christian. We'll probably start around 3:05. Okay. 3:10. Thank you. I was trying to be a little loving to myself, but Zillia, the prophet, reminded me it's 3:10. So this is fun. We're all friends. We laugh, but sometimes it's not a good thing, right? And it's not something I'm proud of. And it's something that I've throughout my life, just pack too much in or just bad with time management. And it's just, you know what it does? It adds to shame. You know, Brene Brown always talks about the number one thing we got to take care of is we have the shame that can lead us to do things to one another that's not healthy. So the shame that builds in myself, because every time I walk into my 9 o'clock appointment with Reverend Patsy and Reverend Todd, it's supposed to start at 9 o'clock. I'm the one who's showing up at 9:05 and 9:10. And guess what? The baby card, I played it too many times. I can't play the baby card anymore. Christian, it's been almost 11 months now. Figure it out. If you can't figure out how to time manage, I got Julia over there. She's laughing at me. She's like, hey, I got multiple kids. Figure it out, Christian. I'm on time. You get on time, right? So I can't play that card anymore. So that shame walks in, and I'm running out of excuses, and I'm making other people wait for me. That drive in the car is like, oh, gosh. So that's feeding into it. So guess what happens? Guess what happens when someone's late for a meeting that I'm hosting? Oh, I get upset. Now, I don't voice it, thank God, but inside, I start getting like Judgy McJugger pants. Who do they think they are? This is ministry. I'm waiting here for Bob Schneider. You're never late, but I'm waiting here for Bob to show up. This is God's work. What is he doing? We got to get here on time. We got all these people waiting for him. One time for the youth group, I was just like, we're just going to leave. They're supposed to be here at 6 o'clock. At 6:15, they can meet us at Kilwins. We're supposed to go to get some ice cream and talk about Jesus. They're not going to be here on time. Leave. That's the only way they're going to learn. Just leave, Miss Alexis, and they'll have their parents drive us. I didn't say that in my head. That's what's going on in my head, right? It's an expression of my own issues with myself, my own shame, my own judgment of myself that I'm not dealing with in a healthy way. So it helps me distract from my own judgment, my own self issues. And that's a small thing, time management. Think about bigger things. Think about coaches who are just too rough on their players. Teachers who are too rough on their students. I mean, from my own experience, acting coaches who are really unhealthy, rough on their own actors. I have a thought about why that is. Because they never made it as an actor. And so they want to vicariously live through you. They see something that's really gifted in you, but they're going to come at you hard. And sometimes they're going to be mean about it. Sometimes when coaches are really too rough with kids, I just want to be like, okay, man, so tell me what happened. You didn't get the D1 scholarship? And so now you see all the promise in this kid who reminds you of yourself, and you're going to ride that person. And you're also sometimes just you're going to go over the line. And that leaves wounds. It expresses this judgment we can bring. We feel this right to judge because we're just dealing with our own stuff. So Jesus says, figure out your own stuff first. When you figure out your own stuff first and make peace with it, then you can go to that person and sit down with them and say, okay, we got to have a little talk. You know why? Because guess what you're going to bring to that conversation now? Compassion, love, and grace. Because you've been there. You get it. Right? Father Todd has had that talk with me about time management. He gets it. He wrestled with time management at one point. And he sat me down as like a father with a son and broke it down to me, and I heard him, and that seed is planted in my heart. I haven't achieved it yet, but he's planted the seed in my heart, as opposed to me getting defensive and saying, yeah, okay, fine, I'm a busy guy, I have a kid. No. He will break through my defensiveness. He will break through it all. Compassion and empathy will win. Jesus is getting us. If you're going to build the kingdom, you can't come throwing a Bible at people as a weapon. You got to come with compassion and empathy. For all those who are studying nonviolent communication on Wednesday nights, that's what we're learning. You got to have compassion for yourself, and then find a way how you can have compassion for the person you're across from, especially if you're in a judgment situation or holding someone accountable. Has anyone here seen the movie Sound of Metal yet? No one. Oh, okay, Tom for $500. Thanks, Tom. So check it out. It's got some strong language, so a little, caveat there. So if you're not into that, don't check it out. But it's so I'm not gonna. This is everything I'm gonna tell you right now is in the bio. This is not gonna ruin anything for you. But you got the story of you have a young man who is a drummer. And because of just an issue that he has, he loses his hearing. And so you watch this guy deal with the loss of his hearing as a rock and roll drummer. And he also has 4 years of sobriety underneath his, he has 4 years of sobriety as an addict, a drug addict. So once he loses his hearing, the concern is he's gonna relapse. And so he joins this intentional community that's basically for addicts, but also those who are hearing impaired. And he forms this relationship with this father-like figure. Becomes like his sponsor. And this sponsor is so patient with him and receives him because he gets it. He knows the rebellion, he knows the anxiety, he knows the depression, he knows the challenges, he knows the reason why he was taking those drugs in the first place, because he's pushing something down inside of him. He understands the complete chaos of losing your hearing and what that's like, and that transition of what it means to find new peace on the other side. So he's with him. But there's a point in the movie where the young man, Reuben, he breaks a vow. He breaks a vow that you can't break with his sponsor. And the sponsor has to judge him, has to lay down the judgment. And this scene between the sponsor and the sponsee, between this older man and this young man, is completely heartbreaking. Because you know how heartbreaking it is for the older man to judge this young man, to have this moment with him. But he knows it has to happen because we got to form healthy boundaries. Jesus is saying, don't judge and just allow people to run all over you. No, there are times when you need to speak up. So do your work first on yourself so you can come with compassion. But he lays down the law on this guy. He doesn't let up, but he does it with compassion. And he plants the seeds for this young man later in his life to bear the fruit. He could have gone at him hard. He could have judged him hard. So who do you think you are? And that kid could have just ran off, left, abandoned, and never looked back. Broken. That's what judgment done in unhealthy ways does. It divides us, it breaks relationships, it breaks relationship with yourself, it can break relationship with God. When judgment is used as a weapon, when judgment is led by emotion, when judgment is used by righteousness, when judgment is fed by insecurity and our own emotions and self-hate, whatever it might be, it can be so toxic, judgment. But when it's backed by compassion, grace, love, and truth, it can be so healthy for the kingdom of God. It might split and, add a pause in a relationship. But you're planting God's seeds in one another. We need to have that kind of grace and patience and love with one another when we need to hold each other accountable. I want to leave you with this image. The Labrador, I can't remember the name of this crystal. It's the second word, but it's the first one's a Labrador. And yeah, I used to work in Home Shopping Network, and I had to sell this thing. So let's bring it. Yeah, get the laughter out. Okay. So then, but it's this crystal that at first look is just like, meh. It's got these dull blacks and greens and blues, and a little bit of yellow, but it's just bland. It's meh. But when you slowly turn it and you find the right light, it becomes this gorgeous array. It's like a marine biologist fantasy. It's just these beautiful blues and greens and yellows that will refract and reflect throughout the room. It's gorgeous, but you need the patience. You need the grace to find the right place to say, boom, and its light will shine. You and me are that Labrador crystal. We're all got our stuff. We all got our imperfections. We all got our sin. We all have our stories. But we're also children of God. We're also saved by the cross. You also have the light of Jesus inside of you. We are different than others. When you become a Christian, we act differently. The love and light inside of us should make us different from others. The way we respond to chaos should be through the way of Jesus. We do not judge until we do our own stuff. That's very different than culture. And we take the time and the patience with one another to turn that crystal to be with you with love, and then boom, the seeds are planted for the light to shine and to fill the room, to inspire others and allow the light of God's kingdom to shine through. Be patient and graceful with one another. Do the work on yourself. And for the rest of Lent, anytime you feel you're going like a referee for that red card, for that judgment card, it might happen like as you leave the church. You still might be doing it right now, because I'm probably going on more than 10 minutes now. I'm breaking the Episcopal template for a sermon. So that's fine. Don't judge yourself for judging others. See it as an opportunity to say, okay, God, what do you want me to work on? Okay, God, come in here. I feel myself judging. Why am I getting so hot on this? Why is this such an issue for me? Why are you so upset with my neighbor who keeps on putting political signs out there? Why is this driving me nuts, God? I'm reaching for that judgment card. Talk to me, Jesus. This is Lent. Talk to me. What do I got to work on before I go have that conversation? Judgment is just an opportunity for us to grow deeper into Christ, deeper into compassion, and deeper into ourselves and understand who we are and our own issues. Big old log right here. Take that one, and when you take it out, then Jesus says you can clearly see the sawdust in someone else's eye. And with that clear vision, then you can say, hey, let's have a talk. And you come with the compassion and love of Jesus Christ. So be aware of that judgment card, and then have the patience and grace and see that Labrador crystal for the beautiful light of Jesus Christ to shine through us all, as he is patient with us. Amen. So let's begin our worship of our